Well, that episode was interesting to say the least. This was actually a nice revisit back to Ruby Sunday, and I feel like it was done relatively well. The episode had a lot to incorporate because it had Conrad's story, it had UNIT's story that's probably got to link in with the war between the land and the sea. It also had other side characters that needed to be revisited because of the type of story it was as well, so there was a lot to kind of fit in there, minus the actual story arc itself. Did it work? I really liked the interaction at the beginning between Belinda, the Doctor, and Conrad. The fact that the Doctor unintentionally named a podcast that essentially became about him in the future is just so doctory. The story did really focus on Ruby, and the character growth in this episode was really good. I liked how ᴑɪᴑᴇ actually delved into Ruby's character a little bit deeper. She seems to have been fleshed out a lot more than what she ever had in her full season, which is crazy to think that she had been fleshed out a lot more in one episode than what she had in an entire season. But yeah, I really liked the fact that Ruby felt fresh in this episode. She felt new. At the same time, it was nice to see her kind of deteriorating under the pressure of not having the Doctor there, but having to still think like the Doctor and having to kind of deal with things that the Doctor would deal with, and having that ability to notice the extraordinary so easily because she's been so used to dealing with the extraordinary for so long on her travels with the Doctor. I really liked the fact that they added into this episode the fact that there was mannequins everywhere in that first scene, on the flashback scene with Ruby and the Doctor, just to kind of fool us into thinking that maybe it was something to do with the Autons. But I really liked the callback to the, like, it was obviously a hint at the Autons. It's got to be. There's no other reason to have a scene like that other than to just kind of hint at it without actually having them there. Getting to kind of see Ruby again and be reintroduced with Ruby again was nice. Seeing the family, it was really nice to see Carla back, but it was a pleasure to see Cherry Sunday back. I mean, it's always a pleasure to see Cherry Sunday. It was actually nice this time to see her out of her bed, and she got a cup of tea. Like, she had a cup of tea in this episode, which was nice. Her second mum, Louise, just felt as if she was just there. Unfortunately, the character never really got much character development in the main show. When it was her run, there was literally like one episode where she was in it. So sadly for me, Louise is just like redundant. There was literally no reason for Louise to even be there. Like, does Louise just stay with Carla and Ruby and Cherry Sunday now? Like, what's going on there? I really liked the part where Ruby was heading off to the English village and she's like something about I've been to those English villages and they gave me the eyes, I got the eyes, or something like that.
And be very careful. I have been to English villages. I got looks.
I don't think Conrad's friends are like that, Gran.
She just watched The Wicker Man.
That was such a good scene. Obviously it had deeper meaning. It's just such a Cherry Sunday thing for her to say. It was also really nice to see Kate Stewart finally being somewhat happy, because it's not very often we get to see Kate Stewart in that manner. When she first comes on screen and she's in the office, clearly on her own with Ibrahim, yeah, she just looks really happy, and it's nice to see that. I mean, she's not like that for the rest of the episode. She ends up becoming quite crazy for the rest of the episode, the way that we're used to seeing her, hard-faced and a tough exterior. She becomes Kate Stewart, I suppose. Work mode turns on. Yeah, it was really nice to see that happier side to Kate and seeing a little bit more of a human side to her. That was done nicely. It wasn't delved into too much. It was just like sprinkled on top, just as a little reminder that Kate Stewart is indeed still human. So throughout the first 15 to 20 minutes of this episode is exploring Ruby's life, getting to know Conrad and developing their relationship together, because obviously ᴑɪᴑᴇ had some hard timing in this episode because he had a full relationship to develop. He also had flashbacks to deal with, and then there was also the part at the beginning where the Doctor and Belinda show up. So there was a lot to kind of cram in at the very start of this episode, and I feel like it was handled as best as it could have been, because in order to develop that relationship but still make you like the characters, you need to kind of do that in a way that makes you feel for the characters and makes you want to invest in their time. And I feel like that was done really well, because by that 20-minute mark I was actually starting to enjoy Conrad. I was starting to like Conrad, and I could have easily seen him as part of the Tardis team, maybe an Amy and Rory situation if Ruby did come back. But then he turns around and says,
I'm so sorry. I wanted to be brave, like the Doctor.
You have no idea what you've done.
Everything he was, I can be. I'm not afraid.
You should be.
Immediately I disliked him. From that moment there, I knew that this guy was going to be like bad news. But then also we had the spoilers of the think tank caps as well, and we know from Doctor Who Classic era that think tank was against UNIT. We all kind of knew that Conrad wasn't going to be the nicest of people, but I didn't expect him to be as bad as what he was towards Ruby. Like, I actually felt so bad for Ruby, and I felt so bad for everybody that Conrad had spoke to, because he literally turned into such an evil character. But that was portrayed so well. Like, I didn't expect it to go down that well. I didn't expect this episode to be the best episode to be released, because we've had 3 bangers. Like, 1, 2 and 3 have been fantastic. Usually we would get a dud within a season anyway, or we would get 2 duds within a season. For an episode without the Doctor in it, it was actually like quite good. I enjoyed it. The Shriek themselves are quite interesting. The fact that they basically vomit or spit some kind of venom onto their future prey and mark you, so that when they come back out again they're going to eat you. That's quite interesting. What I would like to know is, how on earth did Conrad manage to get what the Shriek looked like to develop the costumes for his 2 buddies? Unless it was the leak within UNIT that sent photographs of the Shriek, but then Conrad would know that the Shriek was real before he did know the Shriek was real. That's the only part of the episode that confused me, because how did they know what the Shriek looked like prior to making those costumes? It's the only part that bugged me. I feel like that could have been doing with some explanation of some kind. Taking Ruby back to the English village, it really did just feel like a whole let's revisit 73 Yards again. I feel like if they'd done that in a different location, it would have maybe worked a little bit better. But I don't know if this English village is important to the war between the land and the sea, because the scenery around about it does look like some photos we've seen for the filming for that. So the English village could kind of be not important per se, but relevant to that series. I didn't take a whole lot of notes throughout this episode, which is normally a really good sign, because I'm enjoying the episode that much that there's not much that I kind of want to question or query. There's just things that I like, and if they're that good a standout moment, when I come to speak to you about the episode, I'll remember them. So I think a standout moment from this episode for me was when Kate Stewart finally took the reins and been like, no guys, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to release the Shriek and we're going to allow it to come for Conrad.
Let's start with your best friend. Where is the Doctor and his box of tricks?
Oh, you're so lucky he's not here.
She's telling the truth. And actually, I'm glad he's not here, because he would have stopped me.
Like, she just was like the female boss right there and then. She was...
From what? From showing you and your followers what we're protecting them from. The truth, Conrad! As requested!
I do feel like there was a couple of characters here and there throughout the UNIT cast that kind of just felt irrelevant this time round, which is a shame. Colonel Ibrahim, for instance, didn't have very much to say, was just kind of lingering in the background, had the odd word here and there. Same with Amazing Character, was just very underused in this episode, which is a shame. She did have one standout line though that I really liked towards the end of the episode, where she says to Ruby,
"You've already got 2 months, what do you collect them?"
I found quite funny. But yeah, overall, I feel like this was just a development on Ruby's character, which I hope pays off towards the finale, because if not, that means that this full episode was just kind of a waste of time. It could have been something different rather than it being about Ruby Sunday, but I've got a funny feeling it's going to pay off towards the end of the season, because RTD says that Ruby Sunday is still yet to have her finest scenes within the finale. Yeah, so here's hoping that this episode was worth it. Really was. It's quite a good episode. It wasn't as action packed as the previous 3 have been, but I kind of expected that for an Earth-based story, because we've not really got Tardis is what it wasn't about, and the Doctor's frantic energy. It's all just kind of about humans and how they deal with the alien threats, and that's okay. For an episode like that, that's definitely okay. Kind of gives us a little bit of a vibe of what the war between the land and the sea is going to be like, actually. I would say the most standout scene from this episode, and I know the Doctor wasn't in it much, but 1, there was no crying. We finally had an episode where there was literally no tears from the Doctor, which is fantastic. On the flip side of that, we had the Doctor turn quite vicious, actually. He became really quite angry at the end of this episode, and I must say he was doing it in style, because that outfit that he had on, that white outfit that he had on at the end of this episode, was fantastic. It was stunning. Like, and ᴍᴏᴇᴏ was acting here.
You've had plenty of friends. You met Belinda Chandra yet?
Who? You want spoilers? I'll tell you your future. You die in a prison cell, boiling in anger and poison, until your heart packs in age 49, alone and unloved, forgotten.
Was like a complete flip on what we've had from any of his episodes through this run. He was pissed off, to say the least. Like, you could tell he was completely, like, really annoyed. But yeah, the way that he just flipped on Conrad, and he's just like, it was really, really fresh and nice to see the Doctor be that. It kind of gave me Tennant or Capaldi vibes. I don't really like comparing Doctors because they're all different. It gave me really, really Tennant vibes or Capaldi vibes, where the Doctor just flips a switch and he's mad. And it was nice to see the 15th Doctor finally be angry and finally have a speech moment where it feels like it means something. Don't know if that was just me, but it genuinely did feel that way. And towards the end of the episode, or literally the last scenes of the episode, after the Doctor clicks his fingers and banishes Conrad back to his cell, we have our Mrs. Flood for this episode, which was more relevant to this episode than what her appearance was in The Well. She definitely fit in a little bit better in this episode. She says she's the governess, so I don't know if that's like a clue as to who this character is, but I don't know. I still have a theory that Mrs. Flood is actually going to turn out to be the trickster, because Conrad is now in a situation where he can't really continue life. So if Mrs. Flood offers him a deal to change his life, basically he has essentially received a wish, and he will make a wish, and then that will relate in Wish World to some way. So yeah, I don't know, I'm getting more vibes that I feel like Mrs. Flood is definitely going to turn out to be the trickster. And I mean, it would be such fan service if RTD did that, because we've been asking for the trickster to be in the main show since the trickster showed up in the Sarah Jane Adventures. So it wouldn't be surprising if it wasn't the trickster, but it wouldn't be surprising if it was the trickster either. I've got a funny feeling that Mrs. Flood might very well be either working for the trickster or be the trickster, which would be nice to see, because the trickster is a villain that is quite iconic. Do you know what though? Throughout this episode there were so many good character moments. It was a very, very character driven episode, and I don't know if that'll make it fall flat on its face, if people won't really enjoy it for that, but I don't mind having good character development moments in this series, because we do only have 8 episodes, and it's nice to kind of have that minute to develop characters. I just feel like the only thing here is they might have developed the wrong characters if it doesn't pay off in the season finale. If they have developed the right characters, then fair enough, this was a good episode. Is it going to be in the higher ranks? I mean, I ranked The Well a 10 out of 10, so that's the highest of this season. I personally really, really enjoyed revisiting Ruby Sunday. It was nice to have a fresh run of her character. It was nice to have her developed and a little bit different. She wasn't the same character as what she was in the season. She wasn't even the same character as what she turned out to be in 73 Yards, even though her life evolved over that episode. It was nice to see the UNIT team back. It's always really a pleasure to see Kate Lethbridge-Stewart. She is just a staple in Doctor Who at this point, and anybody that watches the show is probably always happy to see her back. Conrad's character has turned out to be an interesting one, and has been made very clear by the end of this episode that Conrad, we're not quite finished with him yet. And by the trailers, we already know that Conrad does come back. I don't know if he comes back in an earlier episode or if he comes back in Wish World. What I do actually wish they had done with this episode was the small scene that was half an hour after the Beatles episode. I do wish that they had included that in the episode. So if they had included that in the episode, but only from Ruby's point of view, and let us hear the picture being took, I feel like it would have literally helped the continuity a little bit more, because we would have been able to understand that that was still to be answered. Someone had took a picture of Ruby, and that was still to come in the next season. So I feel like having that in that episode rather than having it as a flashback in this one would have worked a little bit better. But obviously once it was mentioned and Conrad had revealed it, he could have then had the flashback of him taking the photo like they did anyway. That's like one of the only things that I would really change. It was really nice to see the ᴅɪᴜᴇ again. The ᴅɪᴜᴇ is fantastic. This answers the questions as to UNIT being destroyed, because everyone, I think, was thinking that this was going to be the start of a revolution against UNIT, but it was quickly resolved by the end of this episode, and everyone's kind of back on UNIT's side. So that's not going to be what the war between the land and the sea is going to be about, and it's certainly not going to be anything to do with the end of the season either, because UNIT's back on, well, the humanity's back on UNIT's side again. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It was nice to have a little bit of a more chilled episode compared to the last three, because the last three have been kind of heavy, go. They did slightly break the continuation from episode to episode in this one. We don't know how long it's been since they were at the well, and we don't know how long it took them to get to 2007. So they could have stopped in multiple other places for expanded media in that period of time, so that's fine. For this episode, I'm going to rate it a 7 out of 10. I'm battling with myself here because I feel like it deserves a higher rating than that, but I'm going to stick with a 7 out of 10. I feel like that's a fair enough rating for this episode, considering the type of episode it was. Dr. Light episodes never tend to be anybody's favourite, unless it's Blink, because Blink seems to be the only one that actually did a Dr. Light episode right. The show is called Doctor Who, and when we're watching it, we expect to see the Doctor. I mean, there was quite a lot of the Doctor in this. There was not so much Belinda. Belinda was only in the beginning, but it was nice to also find out that it was Conrad that told the Doctor who Belinda Chandra was. Yeah, that was Conrad. That's who told him. What was your thoughts on the episode? What did you think about it? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Was it alright? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll see you all in the next one.